Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm rvbshard. We are back yet again for part 2 of yesterday's E3 video. This time, of course, we're going to be covering Sony's conference and the PC gaming show. So, we're going to start off with Sony, which I just finished watching, and that is one fucking weird show. I'm not exactly sure what Sony was thinking this year. I mean, no surprises really. I mean, I can't even give it a pros and cons like I did with the other shows because it didn't really have any of anything. It's kind of a weird one. I mean, they started off in a sort of church, and then did like they had they didn't have any of the what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't have any of the regulars that you see on stage from Sony. You didn't have like fucking um, any of the CEOs, any of the big developers. Yeah, you had the guy from what was it, fucking Sony Worldwide or some shit. Um, you had him, but I've never seen him on stage before. I don't know if it's just me, but I've not actually seen that guy on stage before, so I wasn't exactly sure um, what he was doing. But they did like a reveal for The Last of Us 2. Don't get me wrong, game looks bitchin', but I haven't played the first Last of Us because I don't have a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3 at the time when that was released because I just don't use consoles anymore. I don't even use my Xbox One, so um, the game looks spectacular, don't get me wrong. If the game plays the way that they showed it, fucking wow. That game looks bitch and Naughty Dog has done wonders. Um, but then weirdly there was all this fucking filler. Like they said, oh, we're going to take a break because we have to move people from that presentation hall to another presentation hall. And I'm like, guys, what the fuck are you doing? And then they came out with what was it? A new IP called Ghosts of. I probably wouldn't even be able to pronounce this unless I read it. So give me a second here. I need to actually read the name because I do not want to get this wrong. What do we got? Uh, Ghosts of Tsushima. Tsushima. I don't know. I'm probably fucking butchering that, but so they showed that, and again, another beautiful game. Interesting concept. Japanese samurai during the invasion of the Mongol hordes. Um, yeah, looked great, and if it plays like that again, it's going to be another really interesting, top-notch game. But again, it's not something that I had any knowledge of. I mean, that was probably like the closest to a surprise that we really got. Um, but there was all this sort of weird fucking interlude shit. This is what threw me with this conference. Like, Microsoft was like pretty traditional, upfront, game, break, game, right? And they were throwing a lot of stuff at us, right? And it felt like a normal. It felt like what E3 to me should be. Whereas Sony's conference was so fucking far removed from what you'd expect. I mean, they showed a game. Don't get me wrong, Last of Us 2 again. That's what we wanted to see. We got some character development. We got freaking some cinematics. We got some gameplay, and then they moved on. And I get that they're trying to be more focused than they've been in previous years, but again, there was no real like big reveals. There was no surprises. There was no energy. It felt kind of lackluster. And to be perfectly honest, the delays between sections are what really bugged me. And one of the things that sort of irritated me was the very start of the show, where they had like 5 minutes dedicated to some guy playing a banjo. That's got nothing to do with the game. There wasn't even any game footage in the background while he was doing it. It was just a guy, and I don't know who the fuck this guy was. It was just some guy playing a banjo. Right? What else did they show? Let's think. Yeah, when they were doing Ghost of Tsushima again, they started it again in this new conference hall with a guy playing like a Japanese wind orchestra instrument. I don't know what the fuck it's called. I was gonna say fucking orchestra. He wasn't playing an orchestra. Um, but again, it felt removed from what we're like. I understand that this is a Japanese themed game, and this is part of their culture and stuff. But the guy wasn't even fucking Japanese. He was like some white dude wearing sandals, blowing on a fucking tube, and I was like, okay, fine. We get to the game footage, and again, it's another like 5 minutes they wasted on this guy just playing music, and it felt like a stalling tactic almost, just to pad out the show. They showed Control, which looks like a new IP, sort of like a. It felt kind of like The Matrix meets Quantum Break. I mean, it looked interesting enough, but again, uh, they moved on, and I will admit the next reveal they did is one that I was psyched for, and still am psyched for because I love this franchise, and of course I love this game in particular is my favorite of the series. They were showed finally stuff on the Resident Evil 2 reboot. Oh my god! Thank fuck! I don't know why it was at the Sony press conference because it's not an exclusive game to them. It's Resident Evil 2 for fuck's sake. It's been on multiple platforms, um, but it looks bitchin', and I want that game because I love Resident Evil 2, and the fact that we're getting sort of a Resident Evil 4 camera, we're getting the same game universe, we're getting characters and events and shit I all recognized, but done in a new sort of stylized way, looks like the balls, and I want that game badly. So they get props for showing it. Again, it's not like an Sony exclusive, so I don't know why they showed it, but I'm glad they did. Then they had, what was it, Trevor Saves the Universe, a game from the guys behind Rick and Morty and that accountancy game. So you got a very, very noticeable voice acting from the guys behind Rick and Morty. It's sort of like they said it's like a almost like a platformer but with VR elements. So I mean it's interesting. Again, it's not going to be exclusive because those guys aren't owned by Sony. So I mean, again, looks interesting. They did show another trailer for Kingdom Hearts 3, but again, that's been on two shows already, including Square Enix's one, so it wasn't really anything big. We did saw some stuff from Kojima's Death Stranding. Now, that trailer left so many fucking questions in my head. Like Kojima has this ability to confuse the fuck out of gamers. It is like his gift. He's just able to see shit in his head. It makes sense. All the crap that he has envisioned in his noggin makes sense. To the rest of us, we're just stuck going, what the fuck is this? Fuck, what? What is this? Why? Right? But graphically, another beautiful game. They've done amazing work with Norman Reedus to capture like him as this character that you play, Sam. It's really interesting concept, like an enemy you can't see, a world that we don't quite understand, and some really fucking weird shit. I mean, baby ghost detectors. It's a Kojima game, so it'll fucking throw you through a loop a few times. But I'm glad to see Kojima showing Konami to go fuck itself, you know. We saw Neo 2, very short sort of vignette for that. We got no gameplay of that at all. It was just, hey look, it's Neo 2, and I have yet to play Neo 1. Wanted to, but it's too fucking pricey, so I'm waiting for it to go on sale, and I'll pick it up and play and probably stream it. And then the final game for the Sony conference was the reveal of Marvel's Spider-Man. Now, I will admit, Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel superhero. I was always a Spider-Man kid. I had the web shooters. I had all that sort of stuff. I was nuts about Spider-Man when I was like in my what till I was like fucking 13, 14. Had the comics and stuff. It was great, and I'm really happy to see what Insomniac has done. Now, if this trailer and this gameplay that they showed is representative of the final product, then fucking Christ, I may have to buy a PS4 because this game looked exactly what people want from a Spider-Man game. You've got fucking the classic enemies. They showed like Rhino, Electro, Vulture, Scorpion, and I can't remember the name of that fucking negative guy. I don't know what his name was, but they showed a bunch of enemies. They showed great combat, web swinging through the city, abilities and suit powers and things like that. And I really dig the way the game looks as well. Like you can't really judge until you get your hands on it, but it looked really good. And this is an exclusive for Sony, so this was something big. And they did extend the show, and they showed a lot about it, and then they brought the developers on, and then had a sort of a look at the game. So that was good. But again, that was it. The show was supposed to be like 90 minutes, and they only had about 45 minutes worth of games. The rest of the 45 minutes was filler, either music, trailers we'd already seen, moving people from one area to another pointlessly. It was just kind of stunted, and there was no real new stuff to show until the very end of the show. Like, the show was done. There was, like, some snippets of stuff at the end of the show during the sort of interview booth part where people were showing, where they were showing stuff that were coming for Steam VR. Or not Steam VR. PlayStation VR, sorry. And, they showed stuff for, like, Bridge Commander and a few other games that are good in VR and that were coming to PlayStation with content that I didn't know about, because I didn't know they were adding next generation stuff to fucking Star Trek Bridge Commander. But it was there for like 2 seconds, so that was a snippet. But it wasn't in the main show. So I can only judge the show on the show itself, and they had a couple of really good focused showings of particular games. The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man. So they had like I would say like four really hardcore showings of particular games, but there was nothing else. There was no showing of indie games. There was no showing of current developments or future plans. There was like the only other thing that I can remember them showing was a fucking trailer for Destiny the Forsaken. Destiny 2 the Forsaken. And Destiny 2 is a fucking train wreck right now. And I don't think killing off like one of the most popular characters is really the way to go about it. But so for Sony's conference, I'm gonna give them a solid C. There was some good stuff, but there wasn't enough of it. There was a lot of fucking around, as we call it in Scotland, faffing about. There was not enough new stuff to show. I mean, this is E3. This is once a year. This is when you come and you bring your fucking most, and you bring it hard. They sort of felt a bit disconnected from what E3 was about. I mean, I appreciate that they're wanting to go down a more focused route, and they want to focus on like less kind of fanfare and more quality content, and that's great. But 4 games for a 90-minute show, that's kind of That's kind of fucked up, to be honest. When you think about Devolver Digital's show, they had 21 minutes and they had 3 games, right? It's not really value for time that you're spending watching these shows, or like sitting there watching your, feeling your ass get numb. So they had some quality content, but not enough of it. The show was too all over the place for me to sort of feel like there was a proper narrative behind it. So I'm gonna give them a C. Wasn't bad. Could have done better. But anyway, I spent too much time on Sony. So let's move on to the PC Gaming Conference, or the PC Gaming Show. Oh boy. Um, that was like a 2-hour show, and the first like 30 minutes of it were spent with a sort of like an online Q&A, like a quiz almost, with one of the presenters and a dude in a giant duck suit. And here I thought Ubisoft were the only fuckers into furryism. But after that you got into some games. So we saw content was pretty much the name of the game. We saw a lot of indie titles, and some first party games. We got content from like the guys behind Killing Floor, Tripwire Interactive. They also showed their Walking Dead game from the guys behind Payday. So that was like Starbreeze Studios. So there was a lot more variety to the PC gaming show than I was expecting. So content-wise, I was impressed with the amount of games that they showed. I think it was like 30 titles, including indie titles. So there was a lot of stuff there. The problem I had with the conference was the presenter. The main presenter pissed me off beyond levels that I could understand. Like, it felt like he didn't know what he was there to do. It kind of felt like he wasn't even reading from an auto cue, is the thing that got me. He was reading from cards in front of his face. And the guy still sort of tripped over himself. And the amount of times he said, "This is my favorite game." He said that like 8 fucking times. And it's like, if this is your favorite franchise, then you can't have another favorite franchise. Shut up. And it was he was the main irritation. The other presenter they had was okay. She did fall over herself a couple of times, but she was at least engaging with the crowd at times, and she was more, I don't know, you could forgive her more for her shit, because she didn't have cards in front of her. She didn't have any of that sort of stuff. So we got stuff like, so I said Killing Floor 2, the summer event and stuff like that. They showed, like, I think it was like 3 Battle Royale games. And I'm like, are you fucking, oh god. I think one of them was with Mavericks. There was another one that was like a sort of magic-based one. And then there was some other one that I don't remember the name of. Also, they showed the new game from the guy behind Depth, which is called Maneater. So basically, it's another shark game. But they said it's like an open world RPG, and I don't know how you're going to have an open world shark RPG. It's a little confusing. But again, there's no real big standouts. There was nothing for me that was amazing. There was a lot of interesting stuff, and it was very varied. You had like puzzle games, mystery games, action games, battle royales, even an RTS. So there was a lot of stuff there, which was good. But again, the presenter for me just fucking annoyed the hell out of me. And the thing that would have pissed me off personally was he was announcing the latest in the Anno series, which was Anno 1800. And the guy said Anno 1880, and personally, like, the developers came out, and I was like, oh god, you just fucking fucked up the name of their game in their worldwide reveal, you butthole. And they were like, yeah, Anno 1800. I was like, fuck. So yeah, as far as content goes, like, it would probably be like a C minus, but the presenter for me just fucked it up, so I'm gonna give them a D plus. It was a decent length of show, but 30 minutes of it was taken up by a quiz, and then the rest of it was done by that guy falling over himself. So it was, yeah. So they're gonna get a D plus for that. One other thing I'll mention that I didn't factor into my overall, actually two things that I didn't factor into my overall ratings for these conferences. I didn't. I've not been putting any focus this time on exclusive titles, because exclusives really only matter to fanboys. It's a bragging right, and it doesn't fucking matter really. So I'm not doing that this year. I'm not going to do that for any following years either. And the other thing I didn't take into account was technical fuck ups, because I could have actually like taken Sony's conference down to like a D or D minus rating based on technical fuck ups. There was a lot of technical fuck ups in their conference. The stream quality itself, no matter where you watched it from, had a lot of stuttering in it, and I mean a lot. So that kind of detracted from a lot of the experience. But I was like, it's a technical thing. I'll overlook it. There was also audio hiccups in places where mics were being taken from other people, and it was weird. But back to the PC gaming show. There was one game that sticks out in my mind that was well worth watching the show for, and that was what was it, 2 Point Hospital? Hang on, sorry. 2 Point Hospital, which is the spiritual successor to one of my favorite games on the PlayStation, which was Theme Hospital, made by defunct studio Bullfrog. It was a lot of fun, and they've taken that and they're going back to their roots, where you build a hospital, you treat patients with wacky diseases and illnesses, and it's got that sort of comedy thing, and they've added like natural disasters and stuff. Like, they've built up the game, and that I'm looking forward to, because I enjoyed that game a lot, and in fact, me and Shell occasionally still play it. So yeah. That's it for Sony, the PC Gaming Show, Ubisoft, and Square Enix. Tomorrow, I will be doing Nintendo's showcase and any other showcases that may have shown up or weren't listed or whatever. But Nintendo's going to be the big one for tomorrow. So, guys, stay tuned for that. Remember, leave your comments down below of what you think of these videos. If you want me to continue doing videos in this sort of style. What you think of E3 so far, what games you're looking forward to, any other reveals or stuff that I may have missed that you want my thoughts on, let me know. But other than that, yep, as always, I will catch you all later. Peace out, have a great day, Shard out.